since we came on live, but we are back now and happy to connect with all of you. Where take a minute just to do a tech check to be sure that everything is
People can
okay.
hear us.
Okay, I can see that it's
It's live. Huh?
Yep. Okay, and then the sound too should be good. All right, how are all of you doing?
Yeah, how have you been?
The year is just going by like a
It's interesting, huh?
like a blur,
Yeah,
right?
we're
We
in
are already in
April.
April, so um, by this time, a lot of people are either feeling very discouraged or still pursuing their goals because it's like the year seems to be just going by quickly and maybe certain things that you wanted to have happened are not exactly happening as you wanted to, but
Never give up.
never give up.
That's the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Winners don't
Quit.
Winners don't. Inquiters never win. So guys, like never give up. So you need to have more vim.
Yep.
More vim. We are not in December, so even when we get to December, there's still hope.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're alive, yeah, that's the most important thing.
All right. So what are we talking about today? Job search strategies for new Canadian, should I say, what graduates, right? Especially international students, right? And I was just thinking about this that you see last year a lot of people came in as international students, right?
Yeah.
Especially beginning from the fall term. So
Yeah.
I like to call them the Joshua generation. For those of
Joshua,
you,
Joshua.
yes, for those of you who know about the story of the Israelites in the Bible, they were led into the promised land.
Yeah.
By Joshua. I mean Joshua and Caleb, but Joshua was the main person. So I mean God promised them that they were going into a land of what
milk and honey.
But it wasn't that as soon as they stepped into the land, the milk and honey was flowing.
I like this.
They had to fight, right? They actually had to fight the people who were already in the land and take over from them.
So then that fighting is part of the process and training.
Yes.
People like to use that word. Sometimes when I complain about something, he'll say it's all part of the training. And I'm like, okay. That when you say that, I just keep quiet. Like it's all part of the training.
Yeah, so the Joshua generation, they entered into the promised land of Canada, which was promised to be a land of milk and honey.
Right?
But the milk and honey wasn't flowing through the taps and dripping from the ceiling.
No, certainly not.
You still have to
work at it. Right?
Work for it.
Yeah,
you have to fight certain battles. And I mean, for most people who have graduated from school, the next thing is how to find a job.
Yeah.
Right? How to find a job. So we just said that we'll just like share a few tips from my experience and from my interactions and just to help those of you who find yourselves in this arena. Actually, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, a lot of people are completing school who began in September for 1-year courses, right?
Yeah, and the good thing is we know some people who fell in this category who have been successful.
Oh yes.
Right. And some others too who are in that
still navigating.
In that kind of space, wondering will it work, will it not work, that kind of anxiety and things like that. So we wanted to share the success stories as well, like what have people done, right?
Yeah.
So
anyway, so I think the most important thing that you should understand or you should come to terms with is that the Canadian job market is a very different job market from wherever you come from, especially if you're coming from somewhere in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, Kenya, Uganda, wherever in Africa, east or west.
Yeah.
The Canadian job market it works a bit differently, right? I saw a video recently and I think someone was being interviewed and it's like, I think the person from East Africa is like, in Kenya, when you come to a job, they ask you, who sent you, right? But it's like when you're in Europe and go for a job, when you're in America and go for a job, when you're in Canada and go for a job, they ask you that, what do you know? What can you do? Right? But back home, it's like who you know.
So that's the who sent you.
Yes, it's like who sent you to come even for this job interview. And if you are not sent by the right person, it's like then your chances are so low, right?
Right. Yeah, and this is like generally, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, it's like people have influence in the recruiting process and the adverse effect of that is that people get jobs who might not even be the best fit for the job.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say here is the difference I see between this context and the African one is here too, in some cases, when you know people, it's beneficial.
Yes.
Except you knowing the people and you also being qualified
Yes.
for the position.
Yeah. Automatically knowing someone, like automatically knowing the CEO of a company doesn't give you the job if you are not qualified and competent for the job.
Yeah, you have to be qualified and competent. And
in most cases, because we do know that sometimes too there is a little bit of who you knowism in the system as well.
Exactly. And even with my own experience, like I sit down and I'm like, where I have gotten to in an interview process, I'm like, okay, I didn't know anybody here. Like, like nobody, like everybody is a stranger.
For the job,
or even when I was shortlisted. And then when I was again shortlisted, I didn't know anybody, and then I got there.
It's like they're looking at
they're looking at what is on the
presented.
Exactly. And then where I have gotten to in some of these processes, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, maybe then if somebody was, by that time, you've gotten
very
far, and then you're qualified, right?
Yeah.
And then so when at that point somebody, it can work in your favor and things like that.
Yeah. So,
but sometimes you don't need to know anybody, and you will be successful.
Literally all the jobs that I have gotten in Canada, I don't think that I knew anybody who was influencing it for me. But one important thing was that helped me is the referral process, and I think we'll come to that, right? I'll give some more details where it's interesting that a number of jobs that I have done when I first came to Canada, I was rejected for those exact same jobs, right? But we'll come to that. So understanding the Canadian job market, it's a very different job market from back home. How different is it also? Like, there are a lot of people, like there's a lot of competition. Like last year, looking at the number of international students who came and the number who will be like graduating this coming May, the job market is going to be like very competitive and very tough. So first of all, you need to understand that this job market, the job market here, it's all about skills, right?
Yeah.
Like Canada is a land of skilled people. Right. So even, there's an immigration program which is referred to as well, the Federal Skilled Worker Immigration Process, FSWP. You need to have a specific skill. And that is one thing that also I would like people to know, that Canada is about specialists, right? Specialization is what will propel you and cause you to stand out from everyone, because Canada the job market likes specialists. And who's a specialist? Someone who is extremely good at doing one particular thing, or who is extremely proficient in one area. And that area can be told from looking at your resume. Someone picks up your resume, they're like, oh, you've applied for this job. They look at your resume, they scan through it, they look at your experience, they're like, oh, this guy is specialized in this area.
Yeah.
Back home, it's more or less like the people who can do a lot of things. It's like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that.
Okay.
That's how most of us work, actually, right?
Right.
When I came to Canada, my first job, it was in a similar like industry and environment as I was back home. But then I realized that, hey, the work I was doing back home in Canada is the work of about 4 or 5 different people.
Oh, okay. So that means you were doing...
I was doing so many things. Like doing more things, like things that, let's say, for example, I was working in telecoms, right? So, there were times where, let's say, we have to install some equipment. I will have to go to the airport, sorry, not the airport, the warehouse, with a car to go and look through, to go and identify the things, load it onto the pickup, send it to where we are going to install it. We put it there, then maybe an electrician will come and connect power to it. And then we'll be the ones who do like, the cabling and connect things to it and all of that. We'll do the configurations, make sure. No, but I realized that here, like my first job, I was doing just one thing. Someone else was responsible for getting the thing installed.
All of these
Someone is responsible for doing this, driving. Like, I am totally removed from that process. And for what I was doing, I was required to be like a specialist, because it's like highly technical, field, right? And it's like very specialized. So it's like, this is what we brought you here to do, and this is what you are doing, and only this and nothing else.
And it makes you more efficient, though,
exactly,
right?
Because it's like you become laser focused. You become more focused on one thing, and the more you focus on one thing, the better you become at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kweku's work and focus is different from me in academia. Even though I would say that for me, I won't
But
say
your
that.
work is also specialized, right?
Yeah, it
Academia
is.
is a specialized.
Yeah, it is. But I won't say that I'm doing one thing. It's a number of things that I do in seconds.
Yes, yeah,
So
but it is within a specific
exactly.
it is within a specific definition. It's like you cannot say
Exactly.
that I don't even know what I'm doing. Like
No,
but you know that within the scope of your work, you are supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly.
Yes.
So across that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have when I do this, when I do that, when I do this, when I do it. But like it doesn't go outside it.
Yeah. Like you don't do things that is not like really your part of your responsibilities, right? No. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
right?
Everything I do, it is clearly stated from the beginning, and I know what I was going into.
Yeah.
So
So based on that, that's why I'm saying that specialization. So what are you good at, or what 1 or 2 things are you good at?
Yeah, it's very important.
And how can you translate? You see, the thing is, I've interacted with a lot of people. I've looked at their resumes back home. Like your resume shows that you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But here, when I look at your resume through a Canadian lens, I want to see clearly what is what is the focus of your career.
So that you are not like all over.
Yes,
So that you are not all over. Because even for my type of work, you see that you're still focused like this. So you have the skill in this.
Yeah.
You're not all over the place. It's very important, I believe.
Yeah. So I tell people that, hey, like make your resume more focused. Let it be obvious what you are good at when someone picks it that, oh, you are a product manager or you are a project manager. So I expect you to see having managed a number of projects and you are using the project management terminology in your resume and, you know,
I mean, I see where the challenge comes most of the time is because of, our upbringing and where we are coming from. We feel like if I'm doing more things,
that makes
people think like, oh, I'm versatile. I can do this, I can do that, I can do that. But it's not always the case.
It's not always the
case. It makes you come across in a certain way. Like sometimes it may even seem like you don't know what you are doing, right? Yeah. Sometimes, even though that may not be the case. So you just need to put some little caution to that.
And then also the topic of transferable skills, right?
Yes.
That is also, it is so important because the way we work, we can do a lot of things, but you should be able to like translate your skills from back home to fit a specific job it is that you are applying for, right? So maybe you've seen a job, they are asking for like a, and that's also one thing too about the job market here is that realize that here there are so many different roles that are possible out there. Ghana, if you were to go onto like a job site where they advertise job, you see a lot of, marketing manager, sales, like you don't really see different kinds of like job roles. The job roles are quite similar. So I tell people that sometimes what you have done and the name of what you were doing, it is called something else here, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you work in finance, maybe accounts. You work in finance. Ghana will say that, oh, you're an accountant. But in Canada, what kind of accountant are you? There are different kinds of accountant, and there are different roles in finance. You have accounts payable specialists or accounts receivable specialists.
Yeah, you're right.
Or you have something like they are very specific and very it's like within finance there are so many different roles, but you might have those skills back home, but just that you didn't have the title. So because you are not seeing your title, you think that, oh, I cannot do this job. But you need to look at the job and look at the requirements and see how best can I show that I've done this before. Maybe I didn't have this title. And let me say that, look, sometimes the titles can be restrictive, and it is okay to sometimes just change the titles a little bit, right? You don't need to use the exact same title, because the most important thing is the job description, right? Is this job description something that I'm familiar with?
Yeah.
Is this something that I can do? Okay, how do I craft my experience so that,
And I wanted to say also that when you look at the job ad, don't be intimidated.
Yeah.
Because when I worked on campus, I remember when I was a student, I worked as an educational development associate in our Center for Teaching and Learning. I was working there, and some of the things that we were taught that we would in turn tell other people, like they would invite us to people's classrooms and talk to students here and there.
Okay.
And we learned that the employer would have their ideal
job description.
candidates,
And
like
put
ideal,
everything that they want.
exactly.
Ideal job description.
Yeah,
that can be intimidating.
It can be intimidating. It's called ideal, but they don't put it there that this is our ideal, like, but it's the ideal. So if you look at everything and you want to take all of the things they are looking for, then you may not apply.
Yeah.
So if you see yourself between, we would normally say even from 60, 65 to 100, give it a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst thing that will happen? You will not get a job.
Yeah.
But the best thing that will happen is that you can also get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying you're looking at the thing 30%, then you are going to apply. No, assess yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's self-assessment. That's why we even say when you're successful and you get an interview, after the interview, the first thing you do before chatting with anybody, assess yourself. Like, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, how did I do?
You see, a lot of people, when they go
myself
for like an interview and you ask them, they just give you only positive.
No.
I've seen
that, you know me, I will tell you
quite a number of times. They tell you, oh, the interview went well and everything, but then it comes out and then they are not successful. And I'm like, what happened?
You have to be honest in your assessment,
who have been
right?
honest with me and told me that I don't think it really went well. Like, and sometimes if you be honest yourself, when an interview goes well, you yourself you know it's really gone well.
Yeah, and in those instances when you even do not get the job, like that
you put in your best.
You put in your best, and I mean, we haven't gotten there, but you can also ask for feedback, or sometimes, depending on the type of job, they may ask you if you want feedback, and that feedback is, it can help you to improve for the next one. Anyway, that was just, by the way, I think you were talking about transferable skills.
Yes, that also takes some time. I mean, job searching is it takes time, right?
Yeah.
Some people say that searching for a job is a full-time job, right? Job search is a full-time job because of
it is.
The efforts that you need to look into, finding the right role, finding the right company, preparing your resume, and like at least try and have different versions of your resume. For example, if you know that you can do different things, that you have like some finance background, you have banking, especially those who come from banking background, realize that they have a lot of different skills, right?
Yeah.
They can do like customer management. They can do, because back home we have relationship managers. Here we don't really have relationship managers. They'll call them maybe a customer success manager or a client associate or a client,
same thing.
Customer advocate. These are some of the terminologies that you would need to kind of like figure out that, back home I was a relationship manager. What is the equivalent here?
Yeah.
Right? They might call them, financial advisors or personal financial advisor or, financial planner,
It's a lot.
So you need to look at the job roles, study the job descriptions, and then look at the skills that you can transfer from your own experience back home to help you in your search here, right? So sometimes some people might have like 2 or 3 different versions of their resume, depending on what it is that they are applying for, and depending on the kind of skills that are being asked for, right? So maybe this one is more focused towards this kind of skill. This one is focused towards more this of this, and that, and so forth and so on. So like spend some time to even create like a resume, a good resume, like 1 or 2 pages should be good enough, right? With the right spacing and margins and all those kind of things. You can actually fit a lot of information into like a 1-page CV.
Yeah, I was going to say not for my type of job though, but then
yes,
I think what we are talking about generally is jobs, like other jobs.
I mean, academia.
So I'll be quiet.
Academia, you have your 20, 30, 40 page CVs.
I recently had to cut a CV to someone's CV from 45 to we're trying to get it at 10 pages.
Because like everything that you have done, you have to put it on there.
It's like
every
so
place they've invited
different.
to speak. I mean, if I was going to do like my CV will also be like
so
many pages.
It will be like a book.
I've also gone a lot of places, given a lot of talks.
If you're writing all that,
things, but I mean, like really, the corporate world, most of those things
it's not apply. Right? So
1
to 2
pages is ideal. I tell people that look, I have about 15 years of experience. My CV is 2 pages.
So when you see them and it's so long, then you're like,
come on,
what are you writing?
Cut this down and I'm constantly reviewing it, constantly, seeing how can I shorten it. Okay, what do I need to be emphasizing on my resume and things like that. So I mean, if you are a student, most of the schools have like human career resources, like
Oh
like
yeah,
career
and
hubs where you can go and discuss with people. They can actually look at your resume and give you advice.
oh yeah, and
you know,
even for most of you who go to the colleges, there are courses on
yeah, of
career
course.
development.
Oh
There
yeah,
are courses on career management
yeah.
where you'll be taught how to write your CV, how to prepare for interviews, how
How
to
to
search the job
create an
market,
elevator pitch.
how to create an
Do
elevator
do you
pitch,
even know what an elevator
how
pitch is?
yeah, all of those things are embedded.
It's a good course, right?
It is.
And I think that anyone in taking a college course should be able to take those career management courses,
Oh
right?
yeah. So they structure in such a way that everybody, regardless of the course you're taking, you take it, because career management development
It's for everyone.
is required for everyone. Yeah.
Now, to one of the most important things when it comes to your job search is your personal network. And this is something that I cannot emphasize enough. Like the human element when it comes to job search, right? There's also a divine element that will come to, but now we are talking about the human element. Being. It is a human being who is going to take your CV and review it and pass it on.
Oh yeah.
Most of these things, and then nowadays we have computer systems too, right? But I mean, a lot of those computer systems, they actually, I don't think those systems work too well, right? Because you will talk to people to tell you, I've applied for jobs, hundreds of jobs and stuff like that, and you're not even getting a call back or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, these application systems, these online ATSs, I don't think they do justice when it comes to like looking for job search. This is where they say that your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, you have to build relationships with human beings in the industries and in the companies in which you want to work with, because these human beings, and this is something that we've said in previous videos. I think we have a video where we talk about how Africans blow opportunities abroad, where we spoke extensively about this whole job search process and how you can get people to refer you and things of that nature. It is so important, right? As an international student here, you are a newcomer, more or less. You might not know that many people, so you have to start building your network even before you finish school. Like the moment you land, and this is something that I remember telling one gentleman, sharing with him, I'll tell him that, look, immediately you land. I mean, he had already come, but I was kind of showing him how to go about it. That, look, when you come to this system, right, human connections and human network is so important. You have to start building it. And thankfully, we have online platforms like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like the number one professional platform where you can begin to connect with people in your industry. Right? So you are into finance or you are into banking. You need to connect with people who are here, who have been here for a while, who are working in the industry. It's good to connect with them, to let them know that, to introduce yourself to them, to let them become familiar with you, so that in the future, if there's any opportunity that they know of, or an opportunity comes up in where they work, they can be your sponsors within the companies.
So people in that LinkedIn field are normally put into, we have two different types of contact.
Okay.
So direct and indirect.
Okay.
And the research shows that most people get jobs through the indirect contact.
Okay. So what's the difference between direct and indirect?
So direct is like, you are my direct contact. Kweku is my husband, is my direct contact. But if Kweku were to introduce me to his friend, then that person becomes my indirect contact.
Okay, like you don't have a direct relationship with the person, but through my cousin,
else. Through LinkedIn, or through a LinkedIn's contact. Some people are friends on LinkedIn, mutual friend of a friend. Yes, so those people are kind of distant from you, but those are the people who have followed through for people. Those are people who have followed through, but the direct ones, it's just like, this thing just even came to mind. It's just like, and not because we are content creators, but as a content creator, when you start, you're like, it seems like the people I know, they are not even subscribing to my YouTube channel. It's like, okay, and then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, but my YouTube channel is growing, and you're like, okay, but all these people, they're even strangers. I don't know them. So it's just following that kind of map, calculate whatever formula. Formula. So the indirect people, sometimes you may need to send them messages and say, "Oh, I got to know you through this
Yeah.
person," just mentioning
Yeah,
your
making
name,
reference,
that making
sending a
reference.
good introductory message, and
Yeah,
don't
and
start your first message and then you are
asking
asking
for the
them,
job.
asking for a
No,
job. No, I mean,
nobody likes
connect
that.
with people. If there are people who are active on LinkedIn, engage with their content, comment on their, don't just go asking for favors, because sometimes it puts people off, right? And I
Yeah,
mean, it happens to me sometimes. Like I'll see a connection request from someone on LinkedIn, I accept it. Then the next moment they are sending me a message, can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, come on, that's
yeah,
not how you
it
do
kind
things,
of
right?
puts you off in a
Yeah,
way, right?
it's off-putting, right? So connect with people, and that's how I got my first job. Like when I came first into Canada, I was, and then one of the important people that you should also be connecting with is recruiters. Recruiters, people who hire or people who fill jobs for companies, right? And this is also
Yeah,
a very different system from, I mean, we don't, the way recruitment works with recruitment agencies and stuff like
yeah,
that, most of us don't have that kind of experience from back home. So what happens here is that there could be internal recruiters or there could be external recruiters, like recruitment agencies. A job vacancy comes up and then a company will send the requisition to maybe 3 or 4 roles.
okay.
So what the recruiters do is they go online, and most of them are working through like LinkedIn
LinkedIn
and
and
job boards and job databases. People have uploaded their resumes to different places. So they come online, LinkedIn, and then
they're
they are
searching.
searching. They are searching, and they see that you'd be a good fit for the role. They'll send you a message, hey, I have this role here and
Yeah,
here, blah, blah, blah. Would you be interested? So it's good to have those people within your circles too as well. And here we have recruiters who are targeted for specific industries. So we have like IT recruiters, we have
okay.
telecom recruiters, we have like engineering recruiters,
Yeah,
we have, name it, people who
lots of
have for like
them.
pharmaceutical, people who have for banking and finance, recruiters who have, they are targeted, right?
Right.
So if you know your industry, you should be looking out for recruiters within these industries to connect with them.
And the recruiters don't get their quota from you, right? They get it from
No,
the
so
employer.
yeah, so in this
So it's
case, the
good.
recruiter who fills the role gets
Get
paid.
some
So
money.
when they identify you that you're a good fit for this job, they will do
Yeah, I've
everything
been
to make
seeing
sure
them
that
calling,
you
calling.
will fill the job. And I had an experience like
They
that
call
when I
Kweku a
came.
lot.
I had that experience when I came first, like when I kind of like changed my LinkedIn profile to say I was in Canada. One recruiter reached out to me, and I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't understand how these things worked in the beginning, so it was a bit funny. But I could see she was so persistent. She came all the way from Mississauga here. She came to buy me. We had breakfast and everything.
I'm
She
sure
paid
you're
for
wondering
everything.
what would this person
Yeah,
get from this,
I was
right?
like, but why are they doing all this? Like,
This
why are they going
the
to
person
all
wanted to
this?
convince you. Yeah.
And it's like they were like, Kweku, if you go for the interview, at first I was like, you know what? I wasn't really interested, but I was like, you know what, I'll go for the interview just to see how good it's like. No, Kweku, if you go for the interview and they offer you the job, you must take the job. And I was like, but why? But later I got to understand, okay,
Why?
she's like, she needs to fill the role,
Yeah.
otherwise she's not going to get paid, right? And so, and she did this more than once, even when I'd gotten a job at another place.
She still came back.
I told her
She,
that I got a job. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Can we have lunch sometime just to see how things are going? And it's like they
okay.
keep relationships for the future.
Yeah.
So that one day, if they might not be able to get you a job now, they know that in the future, if something comes along that you are a good fit for, they have you in their database, they have
Yeah.
established a relationship with you, and they can come back to you.
Yeah. And I mean, I like what you said about keeping relationships. I think it's very important.
Oh, yes.
I mean, just, even once in a while, you just say
Hello.
or hi. It doesn't need to be every week. It doesn't need to
No.
be every 2 weeks. Even if
No.
we're doing it bi-monthly, I'm
Yeah.
just, checking in. I think it's helpful.
Oh,
It's
yes.
really important.
So
yeah,
the
if you
human
can do
element
that.
is so key, right? Because look, I have spoken to a number of people. I have even referred or helped certain people to get referrals, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it has just been a world of a difference. Like you see that, look, the referral process is just skipping over all these applicant systems, and you're actually dealing with someone that, hey, I know someone who will be a good fit for this job. Can you submit their resume? And then the people get the call from HR, and they're like, wow, HR called me. They've arranged a phone interview with me, on this day and that day. I've got an interview, and I'm like, yes, that's how it works, right? So focus on building like your human networks, right? Get to know people and get to know what people do.
And this one with Apostle Selman's statement. Will you remember?
Which one is that?
God works through
Okay, all blessings come from God
God
through men to
to
men.
men.
Yes. And that is where the divine element comes in. That
Right.
also looking for a job is not always only about applying and referrals and stuff like that.
Charlie, pray.
Sometimes it is just some favor that finds you,
telling
and
you,
you realize that
telling
wow,
you.
you go for an interview and it's like the people even like you, and they even give you even more than what you are looking for.
It's
or,
true. I
you
was
know.
talking to a colleague of mine, and he was telling me that, you know what? Sometimes the job that you even get, you ask yourself that, you think you were not so qualified. And so that's the God element.
Mhm.
You know,
Or
that's the God element.
something inexplicable.
Exactly. It's not about media, I believe, the
Mhm.
divine factor strongly.
Oh, yes.
Even though you also need to be, you know,
Of
qualified.
course,
It's
yes.
not that divine factor until they'll pick your CV and then the CV is not
Up to
CV,
standard.
you know. No,
Yeah.
I mean, let's try and be, how do I say, you know, Daniel and his friends, like the spirit of excellence
Yeah.
as Christians.
Yeah.
Because now Christians, we can be lazy too
Yeah.
much. It's
So,
not good.
I mean, these are just a few. Is there anything else that I've forgotten? I think these are the major things to touch on. And
Yeah,
I mean, I can see the difference. Let's see, like I've come into contact with a lot of people like over the past like few months, and I mean, I can see the difference in people who do these things that I'm talking about
Mhm.
and the others who don't.
I have one other point to add. You know, especially for those who go to the colleges, they have this co-op
Yeah.
opportunities. And I
For some
noticed
programs,
for
yeah.
some programs, and I noticed that it's a competitive
Process even to get to the co-op.
Yeah, I think you need to have a certain grade, and yeah. So I mean, make it your goal.
Yes, but that's a good point that you make, that the co-ops are like one of the best
way
ways to secure jobs even
we
before
know
you finish
people
school.
who have gotten jobs through that.
Co-ops, yeah, because it's like what we call back home an internship. Like,
yeah.
you get a chance to go and do an internship. The people like you and they're like, oh wow, would you like to work for us after you're done with school? You have your job secured. So by the time you're going to like your final term,
then
you know that
you have the job
already, right?
It's one of the best. Like if you can commit to it and work out your grades and, you know, get good grades, I think it's one of the best ways to easily get a job.
Yeah. And also, I mean, for those of you who have the opportunity to work well in school, right? If you get some kind of job where it's in your field and you also do well, that also opens up, you know, doors for you to be able to get like some jobs after school. And at least I know like one or two people who were in this kind of scenario. They started out with like an internship, and then they offered them even like a full-time job while they were still in school, because you know, like the student work hours are now like 40 hours and their classes were in the evening. So it's like they like almost a whole year, let's say a whole year before finishing school, they were already in the job market, and now it's like they finished school and it's like they are still just continuing to work, right? You
Exactly.
know? So and all these people, these are people who are like specialized, you know. So it's like this person I'm talking about is into like project management or product management, right? She has work experience from back home in the same area, brought it here, was able to get like that internship, and then they were able to get a job into
that job. People go into it a lot here.
Product
management.
Yeah, I mean, it's
this PMP folks.
And that's project.
So project
management.
There's project management. There's product management. But it seems like the project management people too sometimes they're doing.
You know, it's kind of
they can
you're right.
both.
And even this goes back to, you know, the videos. One of the videos that we also made about, look, when we are selecting a course of study,
yes,
don't just select
go back
any
to that,
course.
right?
Like, think long term. Look at the prospects of the field in which you are going to take a course in, and look at the job prospects afterwards.
Exactly.
And where can you take that course that you are doing? Like, what can you do with it, or what can you add on to it to make you stand out in the job market? Look,
exactly.
The Canadian job market is all about standing out from all the thousands of other people who also did the same course with you, as in all the colleges or in all the universities.
Right.
What makes you different from them, right? You know, that's what you have to focus on. And I think we also have to talk about this, like soft skills. Skills is so important, right? You know, your ability to communicate, your ability to hold like a conversation.
Right? Because I mean, you go through an interview, right? And they are looking at so many things. Even for the general types of jobs.
And even for me, I realized, I got to a time I realized that, look, a lot of these interviews is not really about technical, at least for like what I do. It's not really
Looking
about
at
the
the-
technical. They are looking at the interpersonal more. So it got to a point I stopped preparing like going to study this technical thing. I'm like, I'm just going to have a good conversation. I'm just going to have a good time with them, like be funny.
Relax.
I'm just chilled out and make jokes where I need to make jokes and laugh.
Relax.
Because you are a human being, you are going to be working with human beings in the office. So the people need to also like you as a person, right?
So with this one, we call it company culture. It's like if you think about company culture, when you're looking at the job, it's two things: the company culture and then your competencies. So the company culture is what you're talking about. What are their values, their missions, and they would have some things like, conducive or collegial work environment, collaborative, and that is why when you are able to crack jokes where you need to, they see that, you are outgoing. So if it's their culture, then they'll be like, yeah, we don't want someone who come and be mood
like stiff, and they're not even smiling.
like from beginning to end.
You scare them away.
Like from beginning, like you're so serious, like guys, like all work and no play, right?
And then also
all work
one
and no
important thing, eye contact. Especially for in-person interviews nowadays.
Let's talk about this because it's a big thing for us. You know where we are coming from and where most of our viewers also come from. Is like African context and things like that.
Eye contact is not always.
It's not a thing. It's not our culture. Actually, when you are talking to an older person and you're looking in their face, it seems like you're even disrespectful.
Yes.
And I was talking to one older woman in my church, and she was telling me that she was sharing with a group of us. She said her grandmother, when you're talking to her and you're looking in her face, she'll be like, and you are looking into my face too. Like, so it's kind of like you're not expected to look into my face. Yeah. So we are like that. But then when you come here, know that no way.
Eye contact is key.
You have to be looking at them. Otherwise, it seems like you're hiding something.
Hiding something is seen as a sign of a lack of confidence.
A lack of confidence.
So you are talking to people, you look them in the eye, and you have to learn how to keep the gaze. Like look them in the eye and not break it, not try to look away or anything. Like look them in the eye, stare them down because you are looking at it to see like, is this person. I mean, there are some people, like I've had interviews with people, you can see from their eyes actually this guy is like really determined, or there's something about, there's a look in your eyes that can send a message across that this person, they lack confidence, or wow, this person is really passionate about what they are doing and what they are talking about. And so eye contact is also very important, right? Especially in this context. So if you are not someone who's not used to it, please get used to it.
Like you just learn it gradually, right? I don't think when I came to Canada I was so good at it, but you learn it gradually.
People should also make the conscious effort to like interact with other people, especially like Canadians, or like
listen, we said it a number of times,
interact and like look for job fairs. Most of the schools and the colleges at one time or the other, they have job fairs and things like that. You need to go to the job fairs. You need to practice. That's where you practice talking to people. That's where it begins from. I mean, I attended a few job fairs back in the day, and I handed out my resume, and I got like their complimentary cards and things like that. Like you get so much information there from recruiters, complimentary cards, business cards that you can send them an email and say that, hey, I met you at this so and so job fair, and we talked about this role, and I'm now down. Like areas that you need to take advantage of, right? You need to take advantage of in your job search, right? So don't let any opportunity pass you by, right? Any way you can connect with the real people who are in the industry of recruitment, right? People who are working within the, you should take advantage of it and don't let it slip you by. So
and try and take that mindset of you that you must know somebody to get the job. I mean, it applies in some cases, right? But not always. So just go with that open mind that, hey, this is not Ghana or Nigeria or Kenya or Uganda or whatever. So even if I do not know someone, I can still be successful.
Now, when you say that reminds me to something that I was saying in the beginning, that 1, 2, 3 companies that I have worked for, eventually 3 companies that I've worked for, when I came to Canada in my first or second year, I applied to these same 3 companies and I was rejected.
Right?
Right, the first one they said I didn't have a specific kind of experience.
Oh,
When I
no
got
wonder
to
you're stressing on to be specific.
yes, they said I didn't have a specific kind of experience, but it's interesting that later when I got that same job, I hadn't necessarily gotten that same kind of experience,
But
but
you
I
got
had
it.
gotten some kind of Canadian experience.
Okay.
Right, the
Fair
second
enough.
job too, that one I didn't even hear from them. Right, my current job, when I came and applied for like
Yeah,
a
you
similar
told
job,
me.
I didn't hear from them. But this time I was able to get someone who, referred me, and that is how I got the call to do the interview. Another job too that I came first when I applied for it, I didn't get it. It's interesting. That job that I applied for that I didn't get it, someone else got it, and now this person is working with me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. But it's funny, like,
Okay.
so later I got to work in that company with that person who had gotten the job the first time.
No, I get it.
And today
The person
I have
is
left that company and they left that company, went somewhere else. But
and
today
they are back.
they are
to,
working they are
isn't the
working
person
together.
you referred?
Yes. Right. So realize that like it's a small world, right? And
See,
and
don't burn bridges.
things,
Guys, don't burn bridges.
whatever goes around comes around. Right?
Yeah, so don't burn bridges. Even if they are whatever they are doing to you, you be a Christian and don't bend the bridge. Like peace. The Bible even says it. Like if
live at peace with all men. As much as
live
depends
at
on
peace
you.
with all men. You don't need to be everybody's best friend, but just live at peace.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I guess these are like just a few things that we wanted to share with you.
Drop your
in
questions,
your job search.
Questions, comments, and that'll be it for
if you have any
today.
success stories too, or if you also have any tips that have helped you in your job search, please
put in the comment
section
so that others can learn from it.
Also benefit from it. So thank you very much, and
thank you for watching.
your weekend, and all the best in your job search. Let us know when you are successful. Bye.